Welcome back to Anderson Acres. Today we're talking about one of my favorite little farm treasures, duck eggs. Yep, those lovely, oversized, slightly mysterious eggs that you don't usually see sitting right next to chicken eggs at the grocery store. And honestly, that's a real shame because duck eggs are a fantastic food in their own right. They're richer, they're creamier, they are, and they've got a few little surprises tucked inside those smooth, hard shells. Not kittens, though. So, today we're going over everything you need to know about eating duck eggs, how to get good ones, how to clean and store them properly, and why they might just deserve a spot on your breakfast plate. Let's start with the basics duck eggs for consumption. Now, duck eggs are a little bit of a hidden gem in the culinary world. They're packed with protein, and it's great for your brain and your heart. And the nutrients in the duck eggs support your eye health. The yolks are loaded with these kind of nutrients. Okay? When you eat them, you're basically giving your body a little bit of a nutritional boost every time you have one for dinner, every time you have one for lunch or breakfast. Yes, you can have eggs any time of the day. They're not just a breakfast food. Every time you use them in your baking, they are more nutritionally dense than a chicken egg. A lot of people worry about the cholesterol when it comes to eggs, so they hear that duck eggs are richer, they must be higher in cholesterol. But eating eggs in moderation is not going to clog your arteries regardless of what type of egg it is. Okay? So you're not going to eat enough duck eggs to worry about consuming too much of the bad type of cholesterol because eggs are mostly good types of cholesterol. So, not that there isn't any bad type of cholesterol in eggs. Of course there is. Everything is a balance. But it's not practical to think you're going to eat enough eggs for that to matter, especially enough duck eggs. Okay, so don't worry about that. The real culprits when it comes to clogging your arteries are fats and trans fats, not the eggs themselves. So 1 egg a day, 2 eggs a day, 3 eggs a day, that's not a problem for most folks, especially if everyone is balancing their diet. You're not supposed to just eat eggs. Stop eating just eggs. Okay? But if you still feel nervous, you can always eat the egg white and skip the yolk, I guess. Let's be honest. The good stuff's in the yolk. But if that's how you roll, that's how you roll. So if you're really concerned, just have the egg white. But honestly, you're not going to consume enough eggs for it to matter. Now, if you do want to separate the yolks from the whites, know that it's a little bit trickier in duck eggs. If you've ever tried it, you'll know that. Chicken eggs are easy to separate. Duck eggs, not so much. The yolks and the whites cling together like best friends who refuse to be split up. You might need a bit more finesse if you're doing fancy baking, but for your everyday breakfast, they're perfect. One of the things that really sets duck eggs apart is their richness. The yolk is larger and thicker relative to the white, and that gives duck eggs a naturally creamier texture when you cook with them. So they're smoother, which I like. Scramble them up, and you'll notice that they set up beautifully. They are firm, they are rich, they are golden. Bake with them, and your cakes and pastries are going to be more tender with almost a velvety crumb. They're fantastic. The extra protein adds loft and structure. So if you're a baker, duck eggs are a secret weapon. If you've ever cracked one open, well, you've probably noticed that the shell feels tougher than a chicken egg. They're harder to crack. That's because they just are. Duck eggs have thicker, smoother shells, and you'll need to give them kind of an oomph when you crack them. Crack them on a hard surface like your countertop. If you crack them on the edge of the bowl, shell's just going to fling everywhere. Okay? Crack them nice and firm on the countertop. If if you do it on the edge of the bowl, you're going to get shell in your food, even if you're careful. Duck eggs, when the shell breaks, if you break it on the edge of a bowl, they tend to really shatter and get into the egg. So yeah, on the tabletop. Okay, it's just better. Okay, you don't want to sit there for 10 minutes and fish shell fragments out of your food. I've done it more than once. Don't do that. So, as for taste, duck eggs are often described as being a little richer, maybe even slightly earthier than chicken eggs. The flavor can vary a little depending on the duck's diet. Ducks that free range and eat a mix of plants and bugs tend to produce the more flavorful eggs with deep orange yolks that almost glow in the pan. They're not radioactive, they're just glowing. The color alone makes them look gourmet, even when it's just a simple omelet. Nutritionally, again, duck eggs have more protein, more calcium, more B vitamins than chicken eggs. They also tend to have more fat and cholesterol, but that's part of what gives them their flavor and their texture. And fat and cholesterol are not the enemy, especially when it comes from an egg. It's okay. Eat the eggs. And here's something interesting. People who can't eat chicken eggs because of allergies usually can eat duck eggs with no problem. It goes the other way as well. So people who are allergic to duck eggs can usually eat chicken eggs because an egg is not an egg. It's species specific. So if you are allergic to chicken eggs, give duck eggs a try. You might be surprised. And if your ducks are free ranging, their eggs might even be healthier, like ours free range. Studies have shown that free range eggs, both ducks and chickens, so this is for everyone, they do tend to have higher levels of omega-3 fatty acids, which support heart and brain health. So the more natural and varied their diet, the better the eggs will be for you. Now I want to talk about getting good eggs, because you can't cook with good eggs if you don't have good eggs. Like with chickens, laying ability really depends on the duck's breed. Some are more productive than others. The magpie and the the harlequin, the runner, they're all great layers, all of them. But the queen of the duck egg world is the Cocky Campbell. That breed can produce more than 300 eggs a year. That's a whole lot of omelets. So if you want a lot of eggs, you might want to go with the Cocky Campbell. I love the eggs from the Cayugas, but I will admit they do not lay as much as the Cocky Campbells. Once you have chosen your laying breed, getting plenty of good eating eggs really comes down to a few simple habits. First, make sure your ducks have the right diet, good quality feed, access to greens, and clean water. Ducks are messy drinkers, but they need that water to swallow their food properly and to keep their bills clean. Second, give them good nesting sites. Ducks like to feel safe and comfortable when they lay, and they'll often choose a dark, quiet corner if you provide one. A clean nest box lined with straw or shavings helps keep the eggs cleaner to begin with, which is going to save you work later. And a third little tip that makes your mornings easier, confine your ducks till after they lay. We don't do that, and we have to go on an egg hunt every day, okay? Most ducks lay between the middle of the night and the middle of the morning. So if you let them out too early, you're going to find eggs scattered all over the yard or the pond. But if you wait until 9, they'll usually finish laying inside, and then you can go and collect everything in one go. It also keeps those egg-loving critters like raccoons from beating you to the prize. All right, so you've got your beautiful duck eggs. Let's move on to cleaning and storing eggs meant for eating. Here is where we have to remember that ducks are not the cleanest animal on the farm. They're downright messy. Okay? They love water and mud and anything that splashes. So dirty eggs happen, even when you're doing everything right. But there's a little bit of science in how you handle them, and making sure you handle them properly is the key to food safety. Duck eggs, like chicken eggs, have a natural coating called a bloom. It's a thin protective layer that seals those tiny pores in the shell and keeps bacteria out. Once you wash the egg or the egg gets wet at all, that bloom is gone and the egg becomes vulnerable to spoilage. So ideally, don't wash your eggs unless they're actually dirty. If the eggs got wet, you have to refrigerate them. And if the eggs are dirty, you have to wash them, so now you got to put them in the fridge. If the egg has just a little bit of dirt or straw on it, you can gently brush it off with a dry cloth, or like very, very gently. Don't use sandpaper or anything like that, because sandpaper also damages the bloom, okay, because you're sanding off the bloom. So a very gentle cloth, dry cloth, not wet, okay? If the egg is really dirty or covered in poop, if it has poop on it, you should wash it, okay? You can wash it in warm water. You can get an egg sanitizing solution if you like. The water should be a little bit warmer than the egg itself, so the bacteria isn't drawn into the egg. After that, you need to store eggs that have been washed or gotten wet in the fridge, okay? They have to be. They can't stay on the counter anymore because that bloom has now been destroyed. You have to put them in the fridge. So I don't care if you keep your eggs on the counter or not, but know that ducks have a tendency to get their eggs wet, even if you didn't notice. So my protocol is all duck eggs get washed and refrigerated regardless, because ducks are messy, and especially if those eggs were found anywhere near their water or the pond. Don't take the risk, okay? Because it is not fun to end up with foodborne illnesses. Okay? Badly soiled eggs, if they're really badly soiled, I would just discard them or feed them back to the animals. It's not really that big a deal to lose a couple of eggs if they're really badly soiled. If you're consistently getting eggs that are very, very dirty, I would look into keeping your coop cleaner or letting your ducks free range more so they're not in the coop so much. Do something to reduce the amount of goo that's in your coop. When it comes to storage, eggs need to be kept cool. Even if you're not refrigerating them, they still need to be kept cool. So if your kitchen is really warm, just wash and refrigerate them. Okay? If you don't have a cold room or a mud room that stays fairly cool, it's okay to just wash and refrigerate them anyway. Okay? The refrigerator is your best friend. Okay? Because eggs don't last forever, especially if that bloom's been damaged. So definitely consider washing them if they're gooey. And if they're too gooey, just get rid of them. Now, you want to store that pointed side down in breathable containers, either in cardboard containers, or if you're using plastic ones, make sure there's airflow. This helps keep the yolk centered and the air cells stable. You don't want to seal them in airtight plastic containers. Now, I use reusable plastic cartons, but they have holes in the top for airflow. You need to make sure they're not sealed tight, okay? You need that air circulation for your eggs to stay fresh. Here's another fun fact. Duck eggs actually make terrific pickled eggs. If you like pickling eggs, try duck eggs. The whites are firmer and the yolks richer, and they hold up beautifully in brine. If you've got a surplus, that's one way you can make sure that not a single egg goes to waste. So, to sum it up, duck eggs are a nutritional powerhouse, a baker's secret weapon, and a tasty alternative to the standard chicken egg. If you give your ducks the right care, gather their eggs promptly, and handle them properly, you'll see a steady supply of delicious golden yolked goodness right from your own backyard. And once you start using them in your cooking, don't be surprised if you find yourself preferring them to your chicken eggs. They really do bring something special to the table. That's about it for me here today at Anderson Acres. Drop a comment below and tell me, have you ever tried duck eggs? If so, what's your favorite way to cook them? I like to use them in my baking. They really elevate your baked goods. We'll see you tomorrow.